Okay, I think we'll get started. Good morning, guys. Thanks again for joining us on another webinar. We're going to be looking at how to tackle pain points and why 3CX is supposed to tackle these pain points. So we're going to look at areas where 3CX makes it super easy and painless solution when you might not get that elsewhere with other platforms. We're going to finish the demo of 3CX. It's going to be pretty brief, as I know we've got a lot of people here that are going to be new to 3CX. So it just gives us a bit more hands-on approach rather than death by PowerPoint. So yeah, we'll take a look at that at the end, maybe 10 minutes or so. It won't be a huge in-depth one, but it's going to give us an overview of the system at least for new. So in terms of the agenda today, we're going to go over who are ProView, who are we. As I said, we've got a lot of new people in here, so little introduction to ProView. The common pain points are what we find people have trouble with other platforms, and sort of where 3CX fills the gap. The latest updates, there's always updates for 3CX, so there's always something to talk about. We've got common scenarios, so case studies and whatnot, where 3CX is a perfect solution. And then, of course, why ProView? So why use those for your hardware and 3CX licensing? So first, bit of an introduction to myself. So my name's Jason. I'm the Senior Technical Sales Executive here at ProView. Been here for almost 6 years now, 6 years in October. And I look after 3CX within ProView. So anything 3CX related, or just hardware, or any questions, feedback, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help, and we'll go through any questions or any solutions you need for a particular client. So just let us know. As always, questions, get your questions in. You should have a little chat box on the right hand side of your screen. We'll be looking at them as we go through the webinar, and then we've also got a Q&A section at the end as well. So get them in, and we'll take a look at those. Probably throughout if I remember to check, and then if not, we'll get to them at the end. So who are ProView? So we're specialists in security, communications, and connectivity hardware. So from your IP handsets, headsets, to routers, access control, intercoms, things like that. We've got a large customer base of ITSPs, MSPs, and hosted resellers that take advantage of our bespoke fulfillment solutions and configuration services. So we aim to not just be a box shifter. We want to be able to add a lot of value to your business in terms of fulfillment products that we supply and configuration options. We don't compete with any of our customers. I know there are some suppliers out there, but we don't want to be a competing vendor. It just doesn't really make sense to us. So we don't provide any SIP trunking, and we don't supply to end users at all. So we're strictly to the channel. We're based in Huddersfield, up north in West Yorkshire. Our warehouse is sort of just up the road. So the picture you're seeing there is our offices. It's our converted mill. We did used to have a warehouse in there, but we've since had to move into a bigger facility a couple of years ago, and it's literally just up the road, 30 seconds or so. Maybe 30 seconds run, but a minute walk, let's say. But yeah, so kit's basically on site for us. If we ever need to test anything, we can just get one out of stock and give it a play around with, and to answer any questions you might have. So in terms of the vendors and partners that we work with, we've got a range of different partners that provide or allow us to offer a full UC solution. So from your handsets, your headsets, to routers, switches, and intercoms, and loud ringers as well. We've got a couple of new brands that we've taken on recently, and we're actually in the works or in the process of getting on a few more as well. But we've got PowerWalker and Myleon, which are UPSs, so uninterruptible power supplies. And those are really to meet a requirement of an Ofcom requirement. So, where there might be a vulnerable person, they need to be able to make a call, out in case of a power cut. So these offer a solution to that. But also TP-Link is a new one for us, and we've got a lot of configuration options with TP-Link. As I said, we don't really want to just be a box shifter. We want to focus on the configuration options, and we test every product as well that we sell, so that we're familiar with it and we can actually support it. So we're always looking to add to our portfolio as well. So if there's anything you think we're missing, or you might buy a lot of, let us know, and we'll look into it. More than happy to do that, and we can also stock these as well, and just fulfill them as well. So we've got options like that if needed. So our team, so it's a fairly recent photo, although we've been in a couple of webinars, you've probably seen this photo quite a few times now, but we've got a lot of new people. So it's fairly up to date, which is nice. We're a small team, we're all tech savvy. We all have an interest in technology, which really helps us in supporting our customers. We've got our own inbuilt systems, so from our RPS server to the actual systems that we use, so process and our database systems. So it helps us, make changes quickly to support you guys the best way that we can. So moving on then to the common pain points. I mean, first one, an obvious one, price. Price is always a consideration for your customer to make sure that they're getting the best price, but also the most features for that price. So 3CX truly is the most cost-effective system on the market for its feature set. You've got, I mean, as I said, customers are always looking for the best product for the cheapest price, and 3CX really, hits that perfectly. It's easily scalable, so if you have a user that maybe is doing a migration over a couple of months, you can start with a smaller license and upgrade that, or even just as the business grows, you can of course upgrade that as well as the business scales. So there's no hidden cost for that. You just essentially pay the difference in the price. It's all in one, so there's no sneaky add-ons. You don't start with a base model and then add to it if you want call center features, you want failover. With 3CX, there's only really 2 additions. Well, technically 3. You've got quite a small one for your really small businesses. Then you've got your professional and enterprise licenses. But there's no sort of sneaky add-ons. So I mean, if you went for a professional, let's say, and then you maybe just using ring groups, down the line you wanted call center features, you've already got that included, so you might as well make use of it. Whereas with other platforms, it might be that's an extra £30 a month per user, which is just really not ideal in most cases. Updates, of course, are included. So I know there are some systems out there that require a support contract to actually get the updates, which doesn't really make sense to us because, of course, you want to have the most up-to-date and secure system. You've also got things like call plans and SIP providers. So call plans are typically locked down, so you have only sort of one choice of provider. Whereas with 3CX, you get in, you can choose basically, so you can get the best price, and you most likely already have relationships with providers of trunking and extensions, things like that. So you can get your most cost-effective SIP providers there as well. Moving on to interoperability. I mean, 3CX has a great compatibility on a range of devices, from your handsets, intercoms, and headsets as well. So you could use existing infrastructure, right? So if you've got something like 2N already in place on site, or maybe you've got some loud ringers, then you'll be able to use that existing infrastructure again. Not necessarily provisionable, but at least you can reuse that as well. So reduces the cost for the migration, but also you don't really want to be replacing handsets all the time. So 3CX works with the most popular ones. You've got Fanville, Snom, and Yealink. So chances are, if your customer's already got some handsets, it's going to be these ones anyway, which are provisionable. You've got MS Teams integration. So there's that's just included as well in professional. If you're just wanting your MS 365 integration, such as calendar syncing, your contact syncing, things like that, and that's all just included. WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger integration included. There's also a lot of CRM supported CRMs available, so 14 of them, and then there's 4 vendor supported ones. And then we've got a host of third-party applications, such as maybe a wallboard or an AI speech app that you can alongside 3CX. So you're not locked down. You do have options for things like API. You can choose what you want to do and really get a bespoke system for your, especially your enterprise level customers that require such a thing. So management. So 3CX's management makes it really, really easy. You've got easy setup, and you can deploy the system really within a few hours, depending on the requirement of the user. You've got remote configuration available. You've got user-specific permissions available. So it's really your choice if you give the user, sort of different levels of access. You can keep it all in-house, or you can let the customer, maybe they want to add users, maybe they're a bit more technical, they might have just a technical team, technical support. You might want to give them a bit more access and they can add and create users. Takes a bit of load off you, but also gives that flexibility. So they're not having to maybe get annoyed with waiting around for users to be added and things like that. So you've got extensive reporting with 3CX. So on the right, we've got just a few of them, of the different reports available. There's a great community forum as well. So, any question you need answering, chances are it's already been answered on the forums, but equally come speak to us as well. And then there's free training, which is widely available, which is odd to me because there are platforms out there that do require, quite a bit of payment for the training, which, is counterintuitive to us. So, ultimately, a lot of systems and other systems don't offer as much flexibility with the configuration options, and workflow is going to be locked down, and there's only certain, you've got quite a simple solution often. So with 3CX, you can really make it as simple or as complicated as you need for that customer to meet their requirements. So features and capabilities. So we've got a couple of sort of newer ones here. It's a simultaneous call model. So it's not user-based. You're not paying, 20, 30 pound per user per month. You're paying an annual cost for the license, and that could be upgraded as the company scales, but it just makes it much more cost effective, because if you think about, you might have 80, 100 users, but realistically there might only be 8 simultaneous calls ongoing at any one time, and that might be the maximum because you just don't have a huge call density. Instead of paying £30 a month per user, you're paying for the license, and everyone can make use of the, you're not being penalized, I suppose, for having a larger user base, but not as many calls. AI focus, so there's definitely a focus on AI, I think, for many companies out there, especially for 3CX. They've really laid the groundwork with version 20 to implement AI changes, and we're already seeing a couple of them over the last couple of months come into play, which we'll speak on in a little minute or two. But definitely a focus on AI. There's a new multi-tenancy license model that's coming out. Again, we'll speak about in a couple of slides, but essentially this is going to help in being able to reduce the number of maybe smaller customers that you have on each license, so reduce the management load on all these little systems, and you sort of bundle them into one multi-tenancy or one multi-tenant licensing model to just simplify support. I've also got the call flow designer, which is a custom call flow model, basically to meet any business requirement. So this is really key for larger customers and enterprise contact centers. So they want a custom call plan, or they might want to be able to retrieve some data from a database to then direct the call elsewhere. That can all be done from the call flow designer. So it's just giving you that extra flexibility and customization. So in terms of the latest updates then, we've got, again, focus on AI. I know we've mentioned this a few times now, but I think it is key, and key to understand that AI is going to be the future, and 3CX is already, getting geared up to offer these kind of features. So this one here, this is some new reporting. It comes with an AI sentiment score. So essentially what that means is that the AI can score the call based on how well it thinks it went. So you have 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being not so great. And it just helps with managers, especially via contact centers, to be able to identify calls that may be an issue and may need to be looked at. There's also going to be a lot of transcription available with call recordings and voicemails, things like that, which is of much higher standard as well with Whisper AI, which is from OpenAI. So you've got easy remote storage and archiving, which is a very new feature, still in beta at the moment, but essentially the configuration is much simpler and gives you a lot more control over what you're archiving and where you're storing it. So again, you've got the options of well, you've just got a lot more options on where you want to handle this data. So the new multi-tenant licensing model. So it's licensed exactly the same way as it would be normally. So you can buy maybe a 48 professional or an enterprise key, and you can basically configure customers. So there's multiple customers on this license, and as that grow, as you add more customers, you can grow the license as and when you need, and you're just paying that one hosting cost and then the one license cost. So if you have quite a large estate of users, maybe you've got maybe 100, let's say, customers between 4 and 10 users, instead of having a license for each and every one of them and having to manage that, manage the renewal, you've just got one license to make the hosting much simpler, and probably going to save you quite a bit of money in the process as well, because chances are if you're on a 8 professional, maybe that user only maximum uses 5 simultaneous calls, so you're going to get a bit more bang for your buck. So again, offering a bit more flexibility than what's available in the market. Now there is going to be a minimum license requirement to access this multi-tenancy feature. And I think it's probably going to be around a 64 SC, but I think they're still in talks at the moment to potential for a 32 SC. At the moment, there is no limit, so because it's sort of still in beta, you can go download any 4 SC, 8 SC will work with the multi-tenancy, so you can give it a try and have a play around with it. So call flow designer. So this is really just a custom tool, as we mentioned, for retrieve data from databases, and yeah, you could run a survey at the end of a call, for example. So this is currently only available for self-hosted systems, but will soon be available for 3CX hosted, and there's going to be templates as well, which are going to be built into 3CX, which is really, really nice. So the customization here is really key, especially for enterprise customers. They need a bit more. They need, often have requirements for custom call flows, and they want calls to be dealt with in a certain way, which with most platforms you're not really going to get. So this is a key part of these enterprise level customers. So common scenarios. So we're going to look at sort of some case studies and common, I suppose, sectors where 3CX is perfect for. So we've got enterprise level contact centers that we mentioned a few times. They're going to want extensive call queue configuration. They're going to want access to the call flow designer, API integration for bespoke user experiences, things like wallboards and queues and multiple queues, whether they've got maybe an English queue and then maybe they've got a Spanish queue for different countries. You can redirect and do some quite fancy things with the call queues. You've got a load of amazing reporting tools which can be scheduled. So if there's KPIs that are in place, a manager needs a way to be able to manage this and look at who's performing and meeting the targets, so you can get those scheduled maybe every week, month, or however you want to do it. Of course, there's going to be a potential for desk phones, mobiles, and desktops. So all three are available as standard with 3CX. I mean, you might have salespeople that are going out and about, so they will need it on the phone, but then maybe you've got quite a few office workers as well that are going to need to sit there and answer calls from the queue via either a desk phone or a desktop. Plenty of integration options with CRMs. You've got an intuitive platform, so you don't want something too complicated to have a steep learning curve. You just want something simple that a user can pick up and just understand. It's still going to be very cost effective when compared to what's available in the market. And then you've got failover options as well if that's something that's needed. So schools and colleges, again, this is something where 3CX is just eating the market. Because typically you're going to have quite a large number of handsets or users on site, maybe often around 80 to maybe 100, maybe more. But they're going to be, there's going to be not very much call density. Maybe a little bit busier in the morning with this morning rush with people calling in and telling the child's sick. But other than that, through the day, there's probably going to be low call density. So you don't want to be paying 30, 40 pound per user. But also they can vary in complexity. So typically you might just have a ring group going to the reception. But nowadays we're seeing, especially with users using 3CX, you might as well make use of queues. You might as well make use of all these other features that are available. But typically, with other platforms you have to pay for. So you don't want to, you don't want to pay for it. So I think queues is a perfect one for that morning rush. Again, potential for desk phones, mobiles, and desktops. Again, it's all included as standard with 3CX. Integration with loud ringers and intercom, so chances are they've already got some existing infrastructure in place, which can either be reused or maybe some newer ones can be purchased and then implemented in the system. And things like cost effective, of course, we already know, and then intuitive platform. So third and final one, government. Again, extensive call queue, quite similar to an enterprise contact center, but something like the private video conferencing MCU is going to be crucial to give that privacy and choice where the data is stored. And there's not a lot of platforms that are offering this at the moment. So with the private video conferencing, you have that peace of mind for the government. Of course, things like amazing reporting tools, you've got wallboards, queues, and whatnot. So we've already kind of touched on that, but yeah. So how do ProView help you guys be successful with 3CX? Well, if you're a new partner, which I know there's many on here, there's a sign up bonus. So you get access to a load of different benefits. You £50 cash back on your first 3CX order. You get 2 hours free remote technical support if that's required, and just really to help set up the first system potentially, maybe do a bit of training. Access to white labeled marketing materials, so there's going to be some demo videos coming soon, probably looking at a demo run through of the system, which we can white label for you and you can stick on your website or send it to your customers, things like that. You've got exclusive discounts on Fanville and Snoms. You've got 5% discount when you're purchasing 3CX. So this could be thousands of pounds in savings. I mean, if you think about a school, maybe 1,800 handsets, it really is thousands of pounds you're saving. And then we're also looking at a free Snom handset as well. So getting one of those sent out when you get signed up to have a play around with. Make sure you've got a phone to test as well and get configuration set up. So there's hardware incentives. So if you're already a 3CX partner, of course, you still get access to your incentives when purchasing 3CX. So 5% on Fanville and Snom, which is really, really nice. You got credit terms to improve the speed of your ordering. So with 3CX, you can't get credit. But of course, with us, that's something we can definitely look at for you. So it just helps with cash flow and also just speeds up the whole ordering process. You got free training, so that's both in person and online. Typically more online at the moment. We do quarterly training, and if there's something you might not want to wait for the next quarter training, just reach out to us and we'll provide you with the videos as well for the training sessions. So we've got branded next day shipping. So that's with your own letterhead, with your own logo, your own contact details on. So when your customer receives hardware, it is plug and play, and also they can see it's come from you. And I suppose that ties in really with the one-stop shop experience. So we want to be able to provide, a whole UC solution from end to end. So anything you need, we can provide. So from your 3CX to your hardware, headsets, things like that. So we've got simplified renewals and upgrades, which is a new implementation, new update essentially to Process, which is our online portal. So you've got expiration tracking, you've got one-click renewal, so you can click to renew, add your PO number, and off you go. That's renewed then and goes in your credit account. And then we've got a key builder as well, so you can choose just sort of at the bottom here. This is what it will look like. You've got your professional, you can choose whether it's enterprise or startup, how many calls you need, and then you can click to add hosting or tick that off and choose your own hosting. So there's lots of dev work that's gone into this to hopefully make it a better experience. But if there's any improvements or any feedback, we want to hear it, because we can really tailor the solution to our customers. So we've got lots of pre-sale support and post-sale support available. In terms of pre-sale support, if there's any questions on features, implementation, that's something we can help with. If you want compatibility with handsets, what might work the best because of the provisioning options. We've got pre-sales demos. So if you want us to be there with your client, we can act as 3CX, or we can be one of your engineers to give that peace of mind to your customer, and hopefully give them a tailored demo of what they're actually looking for. So yeah, as we mentioned, we can help with building a full UC solution end to end, and that can start from configuration of the whole system, from start to finish. So we've got our UK-based technical support as well, and of course, this doesn't eliminate the support directly with 3CX. So you have the option to come through us. It's the same time zones. So it's of course UK time. Give us a call or email, up to you, and we'll be more than happy to help. So testing the features on hardware before it's sent out. So if maybe you've got a headset, you want to make sure that it's working. I mean, you can even send these to us and we'll do some testing for you. That's not an issue. And of course, we've got 3CX advanced certified engineers as well, ready to help. So we also think that because you've got access, just give us a call, much quicker resolutions, and there's no time difference as well with the UK time. So what other support do we have available? Well, we've got customer support packages. So this could be from letting your end user basically have a DVI into us, and we can answer any support questions. Just really maybe taking off a load from your support team and reduce the strain on the support staff. So we have support packages available like that. Remote installation, so remote setup of the system, or if maybe you're struggling to set up a particular part of the system, that's something we can do. It might not be that you're struggling, it might just be you just don't have time. So that's something we can do as well. Device labeling, and what that really is where we label the devices with the user, or I mean, it can be quite custom. It could be a name or a department, so that when your customer or when the packages arrive on site, they've got the who it's for, so that it can just be quickly installed. Installation start from start to finish. That includes hardware installation as well. Compare the handsets. If you've got some decked handsets that you need supplying to a customer, we compare the handsets to make sure that it truly is just a plug and play solution. And then training as well. We can do some training with your end client as well to get them up to speed with the system. So I can see there's a question on what is I think I've missed this one. It must have been on the pricing slide, but there's pricing on what is the price for a 3CX license. Well, I will cover that in a second because there is a few different pricing options, and it's all based on simultaneous call. So I think we're actually moving on to the demo now anyway. So let me bring up the system. So as I mentioned, we've got, so I know there's going to be some people that are already familiar with 3CX, but I know there's a lot that we've got a lot of newer people to 3CX here. So this is really just give you a bit of a, rather than a PowerPoint all the time, a bit of a hands-on view of what 3CX actually looks like. I'll keep it fairly brief. But I suppose in terms of pricing, I mean, you've got, there is price list available on 3CX's website as well. You can put in how many users you need here. So that's just under pricing. Maybe you want to go with 50 users, it'll recommend a 16 SC. Pricing for the license and then hosted, this is just retail pricing. But of course, there is a full price list here, and you can see a breakdown of all the simultaneous calls here. But feel free to reach out and we can actually quote you officially for the system as well. So just give us a shout. So in terms of the system then, as I mentioned, I'll keep this fairly brief, but if you want something a bit more in depth, feel free to reach out and we'll more than happy to go through that with you. This is sort of your main dashboard of 3CX then. So you've got your users displayed here. You have the options on the top right to refine this a little bit more. So if you want sales, you can put people into different departments and have sales support. Or there is a search bar, of course, as well. And that can be by extension number or actual name. So did. JSON, for example, it's going to come up with and refine the search. Or if you did an extension 101, for example, it would pop up with that particular user. You've got your dial pad as well, and I will actually call into the system so we can see it a little bit better. So if we do this, your call's incoming. Pop that on mute. We've got the call here. We've got your standard functionality, so you've got on hold. You can click to add a new call. So that might be you want to pop them on hold, start a new call, and then transfer them across. You can transfer by just blind transferring and then typing an extension number here, or a user. And this will also take contacts that you've saved in a phone book as well. You've got your tender transfer, so you can actually start a new call beforehand, before you transfer them across. You've got things like conferencing, so you can conference a colleague in. And then, if you wanted to pause or start the call recording. There is the option at the top right here as well to see your BLF. So if you were on a call, let's say you wanted to maybe call a courier to get an update on a parcel, pop the customer on hold, and then start a new call. Or if you've got them saved to BLF here, you can give them a call. You've got a chat section. So I'm sure we're all aware of what chatting looks like. But what's interesting with 3CX is you have the option to, any WhatsApp or Facebook messages, they will appear in the chat function here, and you can assign those to a particular user as well. You've got meeting at a meeting straight away. You can click, send a link across to somebody, or you can, of course, schedule a new call. You have the option between audio, a video conference, or a webinar. You can schedule it now or later. I suppose the reason we're not using the webinar today function is we do supply a lot of vendors, so we just try to keep it neutral with GoToWebinar that we use. But you have the option, and really the webinar function gives you a lot more control over what the users can do. You then can give it a name, notes to participants, add their email address. You've then got add the email address, or you can import a list of participants from a CSV. So calls gives you a bit of a call history. This can be from incoming, outgoing, missed. So you can see them at a glance. Maybe you just forgot the number after you finish the call. You want to give them a call back. You can just go onto here and click call, and it'll redial that number. The panel is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So the panel, we can see there's currently a call ongoing. We can see who the caller is and who the callee is, if it came in through a queue, and how long they've been on a call. So again, we'll call in from or call into the queue. So we can see we're logged in. You do have the option to log out, but and we do have a couple of views as well, which we'll show in a second. So if I call into the system, it's going to call into the queue. We can answer the call. I'll mute so I get any feedback. Again, you have the all functionality, conference and transfer works in the same way, but we can see now there's this call here. You can see the user and the callee as well, and what queue it was from. We do have a couple of views of the queue. So at the bottom here, we can see how many calls are waiting. Of course, there isn't any at the moment. We can see there's 4 calls being serviced. Once this call has ended, that'll then increase to 5. How many have been abandoned, and then some just more information. What's quite nice is you have a view of the queue. So if we go to the actual queue view, we can see who's associated with this queue and who's logged in and who's logged out, and when this actually occurred as well. But from a manager's point of view, this is really important because they can manage and they can actually see who's doing what, who's maybe answered the most calls, and just make sure everything's working as it should be. You've then got wallboard functionality. So you can see one agent's busy. We've got 4 total calls, 4 answered. Just a lot of information at a glance. And this as well can be popped out onto a separate window. So you could then move this onto a separate monitor and have that maybe on a different monitor in the main office, for example. Well, it's now obviously increased to 5. contacts, so we can add contacts. This could be from MS365 with the integration, could be an integration with CRM. You can get contact books, or you can just add a new contact from here and just add the details. So of course they will actually show up as well in the when you're actually in the dialer. There is the options, and again, remember there's a lot of permission-based options you have. So for this user, we can see recordings. So I don't think we've actually got it set up, and we don't. There's no recordings saved, but I can access this. Now, of course, you can turn this off so each user, doesn't have access to their recordings, but maybe a manager has access. There's also voicemail, and then you've got settings. So settings, generally not really going to mess with, but BLFs can be quite nice to have a mess around with for each user, and you can set up your own BLF, or it might be just speed dial or change status. So just quick buttons to help speed up the process of things. What I'll show as well, so there is on the top right here, you've got this QR code, so you can press this, it'll bring up a QR code to sign in. So any users that need it on the mobile can just press that and download the app and get set up. You look at the user, you can add a picture here, but also, which is quite nice, you've got these statuses, so you can choose between them, which is quite typical, but 3CX lets you add a custom message. So you might, if we did, let's do not disturb, maybe we're going into meeting, we do meeting, okay, you can select this then, and we can see everyone can then see what the message is, and we can see it on do not disturb. What it might be quite nice to show as well is some of the functions within the admin console. Again, we're not going to go into everything, but some may be important sections reporting. So you can see, reports available from call logs to queue callbacks, and if you want to look at performance and ring groups, things like that. So these can be downloaded ad hoc, so you can just click to download one if there is a call log here. You can just download this, or you can schedule it, of course, as well. Call handling. So we'll look at the queue, because there's a few, I think queues are really, really popular with VCS because it's included, so you might as well make use of it. If we look at the queue here, the main queue, you have the option to choose a virtual extension number. You can't edit this once it's been created. You can choose the DDIs. You can choose the name of the queue. So this might be, you might actually want to change this to sales queue or support queue. You've got the polling strategy. So you might want, a ring all, or longest waiting, so or least talk time. So you can send it to an agent with the least talk time in the queue. There is some skill-based routing, which is available in Enterprise Edition. But all that really is so you have the calls first, skill group 2, they get the call second if let's say everyone's on the phone. Can choose the maximum wait in the queue, so I think 1800 seconds, I think it might be 30 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that. So what happens after this, as time has been reached, you can end the call, or you can send it to maybe a different queue. Maybe there's an out of hours queue, or just to voicemail box. So when the office is closed, you can choose what happens. Again, depends on the customer, but maybe they want it sent into a different queue, or a different user. So maybe the owner wants to make sure there's no calls that are missed, and he'll take them on a weekend, something like that. But of course, there's also an announcement you can play. There's a couple of default ones that are included, but of course, you have the option to add your own. We've seen a lot of people as well doing making them via AI now, and really gives you that option to change them quite quickly. If there's like a promotion on you, maybe want to add that to your virtual or your announcement, I suppose, when somebody calls in. To users, quite simple. You just add users into the queue. We can see who else we want to add. And fairly simple enough. You can drag and drop these around to see who's, if you've got a hunt group, this is going to be the order it will go in. So it's quite simple. Notifications. So if there's any notifications, like if a callback fails, or if an SLA time has been breached, or maybe The SLA time is 30 seconds, which you can set in the advanced options. But yeah, you might want to get a notification just to make sure targets have been met. Options, of course, your language, but music on hold, and also an intro prompt. So if you want to force an intro, you can do. Click this button here, play full intro prompt before calling agents. So if you want to have a message that says, please call this, or please have your account number ready, you can of course play that. You can choose when the announcement, what the announcement interval is. So after 10 seconds in this case, it'll start announcing your position in the queue. Or you might not want that at all, but you have the option. 3CX Talk is essentially a URL where you can dial into the queue. So this can be quite nice for emails. So you can just, for your user's point of view, they can just click to dial into the queue. Advanced, a couple of different options. I won't touch on everything, but you've got like wrap up time. So before somebody is entered back into the queue. So you might want this to be 30 seconds to give the agent to answer some or write some notes down, or just give them a bit of time between each call. So you can select that there. Maximum callers in a queue, which is currently set to 4. Now this is really due to because you have simultaneous calls. If you have a 16 call license, you probably don't want to set this to 30, because if you have actually 30 people trying to dial in, not everyone is going to be able to get into the queue because you've reached a simultaneous call limit. So just something to keep in mind, but also just make sure that people can still make internal calls as well. So if you have a 32 call license, you might want to set this to 20. 20 people can be in the queue at one time, but of course you can upgrade at any time. And this is where you can configure your SLA time as well to make sure you get notified if this is breached. So that's sort of from the queue side. And as you can see, it's pretty simple in my opinion. It's pretty straightforward to get something like this set up. You just following the chain downwards and selecting the options that you want. So it is quite self-explanatory, and it's quite simple, which is really, really nice from a support side, but also if your end user has access to this. We won't touch on everything. I think that's probably what we'll cover today. As I said, if there is anyone that wants a bit more of an in-depth view of the system, come and let me know. I'm more than happy to spend as much time as needed to go through the system in a lot of depth. And even if it's maybe with your end user, they just want a bit of an overall view of the actual, what they would be using day to day, come let us know. But I'll head back to this slide here. And if there's any questions. Oh, sorry, Steve, I missed your question there. What's the price per year or per month? So that price is per year. So if you think about a 4 simultaneous call license with hosting, you're looking at around £450 retail pricing. So that's not even a partner price. So when you think about, you can have 4 simultaneous calls, unlimited users, it is a great price, and that's per year. It is an annual license and you pay per year. Of course, if you want to break it down for your customer and have, a monthly cost, that's completely up to you. Often support will be bundled in with this. So if there's any questions, get them in. Matt, what's the maximum number of users? So, I mean, ultimately, there isn't a maximum number of users per license. You just got to think about the simultaneous calls. So you can have 100 users for simultaneous calls, but of course, if there's 4 people on a call, nobody else is going to be able to make a call. So you just got to think about it that way, because you might just have, if you've got like a big company of developers, let's say, chances are they're not making many calls, and you might only need a very small license, but you've got 100 users. But you can also get notified, of course, if the simultaneous call number has been reached. So then you can look at upgrading the license if needed. There's also the link on your screen now, which you can see if you would like to become a partner, or reach out to me. I can send this quite a long link, so if you want to actually send to, we'll send it across and you get signed up with 3CH. You will get some test licenses as well. So with 3CH, you get some NFR licenses, so you can actually have a play around with for your own system. And also, if you want to have a demo system that you can showcase to customers, you have the option as well. I'll give it a couple more minutes. If there's any more questions, get them in. If you think of them after the fact, give us a call. But I'll hang around a couple more minutes, see if we've got any more questions. Does V20 have a dedicated reception console option? I suppose not necessarily. So every user is going to be the same. I mean, there is in the department section, there is reception or receptionist that you can have, but it just gives them a bit more view. So you can choose what departments they're able to see, essentially. So if you want everything directed into a receptionist first, they're also going to receive the calls. I suppose it could come down to your hardware. I mean, with 3CX, you have essentially unlimited BLFs. So if you wanted, in fact, let me bring it up here as well. So if you had a receptionist, they'll be able to see all the BLFs down here. And when they've filled these up, they can go into the next page. Typically, to be honest, a lot of receptionists will have a hardware, phone as well. So there are options with phones where you can get expansion modules and have the BLF showing on there as well. But there's no sort of particular receptionist view. It's all going to be the same, but it can be, of course, used for receptionists. Hopefully that answers your question. Can calls be parked and notes added to show why they are waiting? Oh, that's a good question, really. I mean, within a queue, you'll see that there are waiting calls. Now, that's not necessarily a parked call. You can't. I mean, you could pop them on hold, but I don't believe there's a note that you can add to show that or the reason why they're waiting. That would be quite nice, though. But currently, I do not believe that is an option. You will see from if a manager, let's say, is looking at this panel, they will see that the call is on hold, but they're not going to see why they're on hold. I think that's potentially all the questions for the oh, never mind. It was more to do with a system that all calls go to reception first and transferred out. Users may be busy and they mount through while people on hold parked. I see. Okay. Other than potentially no. I mean, in short, no, that's not really an option. Yeah, you're not going to be able to park that many calls, unfortunately. I mean, you'd be able to potentially have them on hold within a queue. So if you have a receptionist queue, but I mean, you're not going to speak to them first and then, I mean, I suppose you could transfer them back into a queue, but it's going to get a bit messy, and yeah, it's just not really intended for that use. I will say that the way it's typically done at the moment is if a receptionist is there, they might just be after 30 seconds, or if they're already on a call, it'll just start ringing out to a different user. But it's not really what you're wanting. But I mean, yeah, that's how it currently works, and then they would just be able to pick up the call. But I would say that is usually, for most businesses, at least okay. See, yeah. So hold them until they become free. I mean, it might well be something that you can do with the call flow designer, which is a bit of an interesting one, actually. I mean, we can take a look at that in the call flow designer. I think the issue we're going to have is the note section. You're not really going to be able to add them to, or add a note, I suppose. That's going to be the trouble. I mean, you could send the information to a database potentially, but it might require quite a lot of development work with the call flow designer. Cool. Right. Well, I think that's all the questions for today. Of course, my details are below. If you want to give us a call, have a run through any questions, anything like that, any demos, feel free to reach out. More than happy to help out. So thanks everyone for joining. Hope this was useful, and we'll see you in the next one then.